Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports. Man, it's been a minute. It's been a week, at least a week. I was going to do a recruiting preview of last weekend, but then traveling to Las Vegas, enjoying the weekend in Las Vegas, and then getting back, and it's been a whirlwind of a bunch of different things in the Bartle household. So I apologize that I am just now getting back behind the mic, but have a lot to catch up on. This is going to be a pretty heavy recruiting episode, so if you don't want to listen to recruiting, you can tune me out, I guess, and not listen to the episode. But I think this will be a good one, and obviously it's been a week, but have a lot to break down from last weekend's group of visitors, and then also previewing this weekend's group of visitors. Utah is going to welcome 8 prospects to campus this weekend. So I'll do a brief rundown of who's going to be on campus this week and go from there. But first, some basketball recruiting news. Elmarie Abbey has committed to Utah. He is a Finnish product. Finnish is in Finnish. Finnish, from Finland. Finnish. 6 foot, 180 pounds, good athlete on the floor. Not the most explosive athlete, vertically jumping, but he's a good athlete. Good quickness, good toughness. He can get to the rim seemingly at will. So this is a good addition. He's going to come to Utah with 4 years of eligibility. He's played in the highest league. I don't know if it's professional. I think it's professional in Finland, but he's played in their highest division of basketball, which is always a good thing. You want to add those top tier athletes and top tier basketball players. So good addition to the roster. He'll be, the third point guard essentially on this roster, depending on, how they finish out the rest of their roster. But this is a good one to add to the mix for the future of the program. I like this. This sort of, again, continues the identity building and culture building that Utah wants to embody. And that's, good defensive players, good athletes, guys that can get to the rim, guys that can create. I like Abby's game in that sense, in terms of, his ability to get to the rim. In terms of just his ability to be productive, he's pretty consistent. You go through his box scores and it's double-digit scoring pretty consistently. It's 6, 7, 8 rebounds. It's 3, 4, 5 assists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 assists. He averaged 1.8 assists, so he's probably averaging 1 or 2 a game more so. But rebounds, he's a pretty good rebounder for his size, which is surprising because, like I said, he is not that explosive off the ground. But again, a good athlete. He's tough. He's a good defensive player, and this is a good addition to the roster. I think Utah is going to continue to be pretty active in the international market. I know there's another name that's been taught. I shouldn't say talked about, but I'm aware of one other name that I've been asked not to share publicly. But Utah has been pretty active in the international water, so would expect them to continue to fill out the roster, and we'll see what else that brings. But I think Utah should be able to add another player that can make a difference next year. So in terms of Abby and his ability to contribute next year, I think having a guard that's played at a high level is valuable, and I think he can certainly be a guy that can find his way on the floor next year and contribute. Maybe not significant minutes, but he can be a trustworthy option in that backcourt. So like the addition there with Elmarie Abbey, he's going to officially visit, or he was going to officially visit. He told me towards the end of the middle of the month, with his commitment now in place, he might just end up moving to Utah for his official visit. So we'll see. I'm waiting to hear back from Abbey. So, but yeah, that's a pretty exciting addition for Alex Jensen and his basketball program. Let's get to recruiting. Have a lot to get to. Recapping last week's developments and then previewing this weekend's group of visitors. We got a lot to run through. So let's get to it. Utah landed one commitment last week. LeGarry Mitchell out of Meridian, Idaho, 3-star prospect, and I think he's the type of prospect that is going to see his rating and ranking climb, over the span of the next few months as other recruiting services catch up. 24/7 Sports is really great because they have such a strong West Coast presence. Particularly in the states that don't get as much love from other recruiting services, where their focus is more East Coast and California, and that's where they specialize. 24/7 Sports does a good job of evaluating all prospects out west, and I think their rating and ranking of Mitchell, he's got an 87 3-star rating, which I think is pretty accurate, a high 3-star type prospect. He should end up in the top 100 at his position. But this is a guy that, he's got the frame at 6'3", similar wingspan, it's 75, 76 inches. He measured at the Under Armour Next camp in Salt Lake City a couple weeks ago. 4'6", 40, good athlete. This just continues the trend that Colton Swan is a good recruiter, and he adds another good one in Mitchell. So really like that addition there. That was the only commitment from last weekend, but I do think Utah made good progress with last week's group. And, it starts with Celeste Moa, the dynamic athlete out of Fremont, up north in Weber County. Moa is, man, when you watch him, just operate on the field, you see just how easy it is for him. He's just got that quick twitch, that easy athleticism, easy acceleration, burst, explosion, all of that. I think he is capable of playing two ways. Utah is recruiting him primarily as a receiver, and you certainly understand why. He is truly dynamic, and I think would be a really good fit there at receiver. At 6'2", 190 pounds, 4.4 type of speed, just a really good athlete. Moa told 24/7 Sports Blair Angulo that this Utah visit was the best one that he's had so far. So that's really encouraging, and that backs up what I heard going into his official visit, that Utah was actually in a really good spot with him. They were considered one of the top 2 contenders along with Michigan. But the thing of it is, Washington had Moa on campus for an official visit a couple days prior to his visit to Utah, and Washington also made a good move. So, this is going to be interesting how this develops over the next month. He's not going to take an official visit this weekend. He canceled his visit to Oklahoma. He was scheduled to be there this weekend, but canceled that. He still has Michigan and Tennessee in consecutive weekends. He'll be at Michigan June 13th and then Tennessee June 20th. And so, you like where Utah's at, but those two programs certainly can change things. So he is without a doubt the top target for Utah, just given his potential on either side of the ball, the fact that Utah's recruiting him as a receiver, and the fact that they've made a big push for him over the last month. He is the top guy on the big board, and like where that is trending. But again, things can certainly change with his visits coming up over those 2 final weekends in June. So, like what Utah did with Moa, I also like what they did with a handful of other guys, and specifically Kelvin Obot and Chance Collins. Obot obviously is the big offensive tackle out of Idaho. He plays for Fruitland High School in Idaho, and that is actually where Jordan Gross, the former all-time great offensive tackle at Utah and the Carolina Panthers, that is where he now serves as head coach. And so you like that connection. That's always kind of been an underlying connection to Utah and Obot. And, the big thing here was I reached out to a source very close to Obot, and he said the visit went very, very well. So you like what Utah's done there, obviously with 2 potential first-round prospects at offensive tackle and Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu. You can bet that Obot spent a lot of time with those 2 specifically. And Utah sees Obot as that same sort of prospect, a guy that can come in year one, hit the ground running, and be a freshman All American, be an All American in year two or year three, whatever it ends up being, and be an early round draft pick as well. So I like where Utah is at in Obot's recruitment, but similarly, he's still got other visits to take. He's going to be at Nebraska this weekend. He'll be at Oregon next weekend and Michigan June 20th. So, we're going to have to hold on to our butts here with Obot, but I do like the progress that Utah made with him, and obviously the connection with Jordan Gross as well. So I think the message was sent pretty loud and clearly to him that he is a top priority for them this cycle. Chance Collins, the View Boys, Mansfield Timberview has become a high school that Utah has developed a pretty strong connection with. Morgan Scally has done a fantastic job of recruiting guys from Mansfield Timberview over the years, and he's got two on the roster right now with Nathan Tillman and Dylan Battle. Scally has an opportunity to add a third in Chance Collins, and Utah needed to provide a really good experience. And after reaching out to Collins, after his visit, he summed it up, all caps, great. It was a great visit. And I think there's been a lot of positive buzz about Collins and Utah, following his visit. And obviously, given the connection with Tillman and Dylan Battle, the two of whom were his teammates last year at Mansfield Timberview, you like those relationships and how they're working in Utah's favor here. Collins has an official visit scheduled with Oklahoma State and Texas A&M at the end of the month as well. So this is going to be another one that we kind of have to wait out. But I do like, I sort of viewed Utah as the leader here and thought that a good visit would go a long way in terms of securing their place in his recruitment. And I think Utah did exactly that. I think they did exactly what they needed to. And I like where Utah is at with Collins. Now elsewhere with the group, they brought in 12 visitors. And, as much as I want to run through each and every one individually, I'll sum it up as best as I can beyond, the big three that Utah recruited with Moa and Obot and Collins. Those were the blue chip prospects that Utah brought in. But in terms of the guys that I think Utah made the most gains with, the biggest gain, I would say Jackson Gates, the cornerback out of Damien High School in California, currently committed to Syracuse. He had a great experience on his visit, really raved about it with me, and was really blown away and said that this has essentially set the bar for him in terms of how he's viewing other programs in his recruitment, even Syracuse, whom he's currently committed to. So I like where Utah's at with Gates. What's going on with him. So he was scheduled to visit Utah, Michigan State, and Syracuse. But now he visited Utah this past weekend and then moved up his Michigan State visit to the beginning of this week. He was there Monday and now is going to be visiting BYU this weekend. So the Cougars are trying to get in the mix there, but I think Utah's done a good job. Obviously, we'll wait and see how things develop over the weekend with Gates and the Cougars. But he is then scheduled to visit the program Syracuse that he's committed to next weekend. But Gates does want to solidify his decision and finalize his commitment in July. So I like where Utah's at, but obviously we'll see how this plays out. But I think Utah made a big move with Gates and their recruitment of him. A couple other guys that I'll mention here. Carter Stewart out of Shadow Creek High School in Texas. He's a 3-star safety. I think Utah's made a big push for Stewart and have put themselves at the top of his recruitment and are competing with Arizona State. I think those are the top two contenders for Stewart. And, he's going to be officially visiting Arizona State this weekend, and then he's scheduled to visit UNLV the week after that. So I like where Utah's at with Stewart. I think they've made a big push for him over the month. They just offered him earlier, about a month ago in May. I think it was around May 5th that they extended the official offer to him. And so to make up this sort of ground with him, in just a month's time, I think is really impressive and really sort of indicative of how they view him. So I like what they've done with Stewart. I think they're in a good spot with him and really gained ground in his recruitment. And then the other guy, Adam Bywater, the Olympus product here in Salt Lake City. Bywater is a supremely versatile defender. He can play a number of positions at 6'3", 205 pounds. Really like his potential in this defense. He's got 3 schools that he's considering, and he told me, at a couple weeks ago that all 3 are essentially on equal footing, with Utah, Boise State, and BYU being the 3 programs in the mix for him. Obviously, given the Bywater name, we all know the Ben Bywater, former linebacker at BYU. There's certainly a connection there. In talking to some folks that cover BYU, there's little uncertainty about the relationship between BYU and Ben Bywater. Not that it ended poorly, but just it didn't end as brightly as many hope, and there's certainly some concern that Adam Bywater will not end up at BYU, whereas everybody else thinks that Adam Bywater is going to end up in Provo. So we'll see how that recruitment goes. But Utah has certainly made a very good impression with Bywater. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I like Bywater a lot. I think Utah's making a good move to push for him as well. And then a couple other guys, Puleleite Primus, big offensive lineman out of Texas, out of Midland High School in Texas. This is a guy that, in talking to sources around the program, they always talk about the importance of getting guys out to Utah to visit campus, to see Salt Lake City, because a lot of kids just have, these perceptions of Utah and ideas of what Utah is, and they're not great, So to get kids out to Utah, for some of them, it's really impactful because it opens their eyes to just how great Salt Lake City is. And Primus is one of those kids that I think really benefited from actually visiting Utah and getting to see what campus is like, what the program is like. Utah made a very strong impression with Primus. I had them as, a team running 4th or 5th in his recruitment. And I think Utah has put themselves, in that conversation among the top 2 or 3 in his recruitment as well, with Washington, TCU, USC all vying for space in that conversation as well. But I think Utah's done a really good job with him and made a good impression over the weekend. So I like what Utah has done with their visitors last weekend. I believe Utah helped themselves with each one of their visitors, but a few in particular: Moa, Obot, Collins, Gates, Stewart, Primus, and Bywater are the guys that I think Utah really, really helped themselves out quite a bit with. With Cohen Brown, that one's going to be interesting. I think Micah Simon's done a good job there, but given the competition, he's at Texas this weekend. He'll be at Notre Dame next weekend, and then finishes up his official visits with Ole Miss. That's one of those where we're just kind of have to hold on to our butts and see how that one goes. But I do think Micah Simon has done a really good job of developing a genuine relationship with Cohen Brown, and I think Utah's a really viable and genuine dark horse in his recruitment. So like that. Now transitioning to this weekend's group of visitors, Utah is going to welcome 8 guys to campus this weekend. And, this is another good group of visitors. It's headlined by quarterback Mike Johnson out of Georgia. He is a former Mississippi State commit and a guy that I really like. He's a dual threat quarterback, good athleticism, good arm. He's a baseball player as well, and you can see that in his throwing motion. I really like what Utah has done over the last month recruiting him. They've made a big push for him to, getting him on campus for an official visit. I like Utah's chances at least I should say, I like the way that this is trending. And I would not be surprised if Utah is able to secure a commitment from Johnson this weekend. I think there's a lot of optimism, On Johnson's end, a lot of excitement about his visit. He's already on campus. He got here Thursday night, and so we'll see how that one plays out. But Mike Johnson, being the quarterback, he headlines this group, and really like his game again as a former Mississippi State commit, a high 3-star prospect with good potential. I like the fit and projection in Jason Beck's offense, given his dual threat ability and all that. A couple other guys that are visiting this weekend: offensive lineman Colin Campbell out of Arizona. He's got Michigan State and Washington along with Utah in his top 3. I think Utah is running third behind those 3, but I think, as we've seen with others, I think Utah can make a big move with Campbell and make a really strong impression where they can put themselves more at the forefront of this conversation. So I like Campbell a lot, like his potential fit, with Harding and all that. So we'll see how that goes. Another offensive lineman they're bringing in is from New Mexico, Moses Sparks Jr. I like where Utah's at coming into the visit. I think they're in a good spot with him, and I think a good experience this weekend will go a long ways in helping Utah's chances at potentially securing a commitment from Sparks. So we'll see how that one goes. And then a couple others. Cornerback Torrey Davis out of Colorado. This is a good athlete that Utah's bringing in. He's a 3-star prospect, good size, 6'1", 170 pounds. Like his potential to play cornerback or safety, and I think we'll see. We'll get a good idea of where he stands with Utah after this weekend. Running back LaMarcus Bell, former Oregon State commit, is visiting this weekend as well. He backed off his pledge a few weeks ago, I think last month. And from that point on, Utah and BYU have been at the forefront of the conversation for him and his recruitment. This is a kid, a borderline 4-star, should be a 4-star prospect in my opinion. He's got everything you look for: good size, good athleticism, good contact balance, which is really important in my eyes at the running back position. I think this is going to come down to Utah and BYU and his recruitment, and I think Utah will have an opportunity to put their best foot forward this week. I think Coach Atuai has done a really good job of recruiting Bell, and I think Utah should make a pretty significant move this weekend with him. Then a couple others. Wide receiver Ace Theus. He's a dynamic receiver out of Duncanville High School in Texas. Duncanville, obviously the home of former running back, quarterback Jaquindon Jackson. Always produces D1 talent. So like Utah bringing him in, he's a smaller guy. He's a slot receiver, 5'8", 5'9", good speed, good shiftiness, good quicks. He's got a top 4 of, I had it written down, but I can't find it. So this is good podcasting right now. Give me just a sec. He has a top 4 that includes Utah, Oregon State, TCU, and Pitt. He officially visited Oregon State May 9th. He was just at TCU this past weekend. He's at Utah this weekend, and then has his final visit scheduled with Pittsburgh next weekend. So I like where Utah's at with him, but we'll see. They've got to make a move here because I think Pitt is also trending positively for Theus as well. So you've got him visiting as well. And then you've got a pair of tight end prospects that I find really fascinating. Parker Ord out of Panther Creek in Texas. He'll be visiting this weekend. Parker is, he's 6'4", 210, 215 pounds, good athlete. The sort of athlete that you want at the tight end position in terms of projecting, his frame and his ability to put on weight and mass and play the tight end position. 6'4", 210 pounds already, good athlete, good lengthy, frame. He's got Utah this weekend. He told me he's got BYU next weekend. I know Oklahoma State is also pushing to get him on campus as well. So we'll see what happens there. And then another tight end is Bear Fisher out of Queen Creek High School in Arizona. Fisher, good size, 6'6", 230 pounds. He's seen his recruitment pick up quite a bit over the last few weeks or the last couple months, really. And I think Utah has done a good job of putting themselves in a pretty favorable spot in his recruitment as well. So, Bear Fisher, he's going to be not committing, he's going to be visiting this weekend. He's a prospect. He is LDS, and I believe he is going to serve a mission out of high school. So this is one that may not impact things per se next year and beyond. But I think he is a kid that I think is really talented and would be a great fit, in the tight end room. So those are the 8 visitors this weekend. Again, quarterback Mike Johnson, offensive lineman Colin Campbell and Moses Sparks Jr., wide receiver Ace Theus, running back LaMarcus Bell, cornerback Teray Davis, and then tight ends Parker Ord and Bear Fisher are your visitors this weekend. So appreciate everybody tuning in. This was a quick episode. Got a lot going on in the Bartle household. Appreciate everybody for being patient and all that. So for myself, for the Utah Blockcast, appreciate y'all. Signing off.